Hello, so we are going to be shading in a sphere like I have here. Here is my example. This is very similar to the cube that I showed you just a while ago. We did the cube using our pencil, a pen, and marker. We're going to do the same thing with the sphere. This is just the next skill above a cube. So we're going to be using a random piece of paper. I have paper here that's had something printed on it that I no longer need. So I'm going to use the back side for art. You are going to need the same tools. You're going to need a straight edge of some sort. You're going to need a pencil. And if you have a marker or gel pen and you want to try using those, you can use those as well, but it's not necessary. You're also, for this creation, going to need something circular to trace. It could be a roll of tape. It could be a cup. It could be anything circular that you could trace. It could be a shampoo bottle, anything you have around the house. I'm going to be using this roll of tape. This is a good circle size. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my pencil for this. I am going to use a mechanical pencil to trace, but you can use whatever you have. I'm going to trace the inside of this. I'd say this circle is around maybe 1.5 inches in size. So it's not super huge compared to my palm. It's not very big of a circle. I'm going to do this a couple times because I'm going to be making a couple spheres. I could use any of these shading techniques that I practiced a couple cycles ago. Remember, we did this. You could either do it on paper or you could do this on chrome canvas, but you do probably want this to look at as a reference guide. I'm just going to keep it to the side. So here's my circle. Next, what I'm going to do, if I look at the circle that I did, I'm going to put a frame around my circle. Put a frame around my circle. Just kind of frame it in. I'm using my ID. My school ID makes a really nice straight edge. And this is going to kind of emphasize or imply that this is like a sheet of paper that circle's in. You can make this totally square. You could make this really tall, like it could be portrait style. Like, watch, I could make this one portrait style if I wanted to. I also am going to be drawing the shadows on these spheres. So right now these little circles are 2D. They are 2D circles, meaning they're flat. Okay. In order to make these 3D spheres, we need to add some value or shading to them so that it looks like they are round, like an egg. So what I want to do first, I'm going to clean this little edge up here, this little guy that I did. We are going to be drawing some curved lines in these, and these curved lines are going to imply that this is a round shape. If I drew lines inside this circle and I drew them straight instead of curved, this would just look like a flat circle, like a cookie or a pizza. Though curved lines give it that contour. Okay, so I'm going to draw 3 lines. By the way, you want to pretend you have the sun just like when you did your cube, because you have to figure out which side's going to be your shadow and which side's going to be your highlight. The highlight is going to be that side that gets that little white spot where the sun is shining or the light source. So I'm going to draw 3 of those. I'm also going to put the shadow behind here. The shadow goes on the dark side where the sun is not. The sun is shining here. Okay, so my shadow is going to be divided into 3 sections as well. Okay, one is going to be light gray. One's going to be medium. And one's going to be dark. These are the 3 values that we focus on when we're just learning how to do this, okay? I'm going to do this again over here. So I am going to draw my curved line. And I'm going to draw my shadow. This shadow this time is going to go off the edge of that paper, and that's totally okay. Okay? And then I'm going to come down here. I'm still pretending that that's my sun. Again, my shadow, because I did a taller vertical, not horizontal, vertical, this is going to be off my little edge a little bit. Okay. Now, if you look at these circles or these spheres that I did earlier, you're going to notice that there's a line coming across the back. And this is emphasizing like a table or a floor that the sphere is sitting on and the wall. Okay, so that's what that's showing us. So that it doesn't look like it's just a random sphere floating in outer space. So I'm going to grab my straight edge again, and I'm just going to add that little line. Again, this is just kind of pretending that that sphere is sitting in a space, like on a table or on a floor. And the only exception is I want that line to be above the shadow, because that shadow is going to be casted on that floor. So that's, I wouldn't do my line down here, because then the table would be here and my sphere would be floating. So I wouldn't do that. So I'm going to swap this out for an actual pencil now. I'm going to start with my pencil shading. And I'm going to start with my darkest value, and I'm looking at my value scale, and I'm going to match this dark value. I really prefer a wooden pencil, like from the Dollar Tree or Walmart or Office Max, but not a mechanical pencil for shading. Again, that's just my artistic preference. You might like shading with a mechanical pencil. I don't. I don't think the mechanical pencil touches the paper as much as a wooden pencil. I feel like the point on a wooden pencil is larger and it makes more contact with the paper, but that's just my opinion. So I'm going to do my darkest value, and then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do kind of like a medium gray. And I'm trying to do this as smooth as possible. This does take a little bit of patience, but it will pay off at the end. And again, this is just practice. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for your effort. I'm looking that you completed the task. I'm not looking for it to be perfect, okay? This is probably the first time or maybe only the second time you've done this. So I'm not expecting perfection. Mine are not perfect. I've been making art for a long time, longer than you've been alive. And mine are not perfect. It's okay. So this is like my other medium gray, which I got from here on my value scale. If you are using drawing pencils that came in a set, not that I expect you to be using those, but some of us have those laying around the house because we like art, you would use a B pencil for these darker values, like a 6B or a 4B. And then on these lighter values, these two, you would use an H pencil, like a 2H. I'd probably use a 6H. I'm using my eraser to lighten this up a little bit. And then this is going to be my very lightest shade of gray, like my lightest, like almost white, but not quite. I am going to give it a little highlight though. I'm going to use my pencil and I'm just going to give it a little like sun spot where like the sun is shining off of that sphere. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do my shadows. The one that's closest to my sphere that's sitting on the table is going to be my darkest value. And then I'm going to have a medium value. And then a super light value. Barely there. And I'm going to do something here in the background. I'm going to do a darker gray. You can do any shade of gray you want, but this is just to give you contrast between the table and the wall. Contrast means like they stand apart from one another. So the table is going to be like a white, and then the wall is going to be a dark gray, so that you will see the difference between the two areas. They won't kind of go together, mush together with our eyes looking at them. So that is my pencil shading. So now I'm going to do one in scribble shading, and I'm going to use my gel pen for this. This is just a random gel pen. I'm not sure who makes this. Probably got this on Amazon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first just trace my sphere. I'm not going to trace those lines in between because I'm going to erase those eventually. I'm also going to do my background line and my frame. So I'm going to look at my value scale that I created for scribble drawing. And you can see that this is the darkest value, and then it gets a little bit more space between the scribbles to make it look lighter or appear lighter in value. So that's what I'm going to go on. So I'm going to do some scribbles that are super dark and concentrated, like they're really close and really scribbly, really close together. So what's going to happen is they're going to hide the lightness of the paper. I tend to do little circular scribbles. You might do your scribbles differently than me, and that's okay because that's your style. Don't try and match my style. Embrace whatever your style is. So now I'm going to move to this scribble stage or scribble value, and that one's going to be a little bit further apart so that you can see some of that paper shining through. Like that. And then my next one, a little bit further apart. And then this one is barely any. Same thing with the shadow. I'm going to do the shadow that's closest, super close together so that it appears to be a darker value. And then it's going to thin out. For my background, I could do my background a couple different ways. I kind of like this where it fades on the dark shadow side to lighter. So I think I'm going to try recreating that. So this is my shadow side. I'm going to do kind of like a value scale. Very similar to like the one I did, except this now is in the background of my sphere. So as I move across that background, my scribbles are going to spread out like that. I like that. Scribble drawing is my favorite. So next what I'm going to do is I am going to use a permanent marker. This is like a Sharpie, but it's by Crayola, so it's a little bit more reasonable in price. And I could do either one of these. I could do hatching or pointillism. I'm going to do hatching for time purposes. Pointillism does turn out very cool. Here's one that I did in pointillism, but this one does take a little bit more time, but it turns out really nice. I'm going to do this one in hatching, which looks like that. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to trace this frame. I'm also going to trace the actual sphere itself, but not the little sections dividing the values. I'm not doing those, okay? So with hatching, it's going to be a series of lines that go the same direction. And on the darker side, it's going to be hatching like this where they're close together and kind of hiding that paper. I'm also going to follow the shape of the sphere, that round shape. Okay, then when I come up to this one, I'm going to get a little bit further apart and then even more. Now I'm going to do the background the same way, except I'm going to do straight lines for the background. And they get further apart as they go to where the light is shining. At this point, I can take my eraser on my pencil and I can erase any pencil lines I have on these two pen and marker ones. All right, so that is how you shade a sphere. If you have any questions, please let me know. Have a great day.